Hey everyone, so I want to talk about Atatiana Jefferson. This is a story that is circulating all over the mainstream media and really social media because she is a young Texas woman and she lived alone with her nephew. And at approximately 2 o'clock, I believe, Saturday morning, one of her neighbors noticed that her front door was partially open. And so he called the non-emergency police line and he said, I'm not sure if something's wrong, but can you please check on her? So the cops were really just supposed to be there on a welfare check, but the officer had his gun drawn and he sees a shadow in the window and he says, put your hands up, and then he shoots. Never identified himself as a police officer, and we know this because his body camera footage has been released to the public. And so he never identified himself as a police officer. And unfortunately, he ended up shooting and killing this young black woman inside of her own home during what was supposed to be a welfare check. And so a lot of people are obviously very concerned. And for me, this just highlights something that's not often discussed amongst black people in general, okay? So a lot of times when we think about police officer involved shootings, the conversations really center around black men. And the reality is that there's also a racial disparity for black women. So black women, along with Native American women, are more likely to be killed by the police than women of other races. And so what I want to do is take the opportunity to read the names of some unarmed black women who died in officer-involved shootings, because these are names that never really make the front lines and their stories are never discussed. The first name is India Kager. The second name is Melissa Williams. The third name is Natasha McKenna. The fourth name is Tanisha Anderson. The fifth name is Ara Roser. The sixth name is Yvette. They don't have her last name, but she was from Bastrop, Texas. The seventh name is Miriam Carey. The eighth name is Shelley Frey. The ninth name is Darnisha Harris, and she was only 17 years old. Okay? The 10th name is Alicia Thomas. The 11th name is Chantel Davis. The 12th name is Charmel Edwards. The 13th name, I'm sure some of us have heard about because her story did make national news. The 13th name is Rakia Boyd. The 14th name is Sharice Francis. And the 15th name is Ayanna Jones, and she was a 7-year-old girl. The police raided the house she was living in pursuit of another family member who was a suspect in a case. Before entering the home, the police threw a flashing grenade inside, igniting a blanket that was covering little Ayanna while she slept on the couch. And immediately upon entering the home, Officer Joseph Weekly fired a single bullet at Ayanna, which pierced her in the head. And in this case, this raid was being filmed for a reality show on A&E, and all the charges were dropped against the police officers involved in that case, involving a 7-year-old black girl. And I also wanted to point out that in the case of India Kager, that was the first name I read. She was a Navy veteran, and her 4-month-old son were riding in the car with her boyfriend. The police surrounded the vehicle, and And the police allege that they only started shooting after a man in the vehicle opened fire, although that part of the story is a bit contested. The police shot into the vehicle because they claimed that they were unaware that there was a 4-month-old child in the car. While India did not survive her injuries, thankfully, the 4-month-old baby was not injured. So I wanted to read those names because often when we have these conversations around race and officer-involved shootings, a lot of Black women's stories don't make the national headlines. They don't make the national news. And so a woman that I have mentioned on this channel before, Kimberly Crenshaw, and if you remember who she was the Black woman who coined the term intersectionality to specifically talk about the unique forms of discrimination that we face as women who are Black or as Black people who are women. She is also responsible for starting an organization called Say Her Name for this very reason, so that the names of these Black women and in some cases Black girls like Ayanna get the same type of coverage and attention as other officer-involved shootings. So my condolences go out to Atatiana Jefferson's family. So far, the officer in that case has only been placed on administrative leave. So we'll see whether or not the Black collective and specifically pro-Blacks give her the same type of advocacy as they give Black men who are involved in officer-involved shootings. All right? I will talk to you all very soon.